Hey, what's up, Canada and beyond? Welcome back to episode 8 of Bankers, Bandits, Bullion, and Bucks with Bryce. It is Friday, April 26th. Thank you for tuning in from wherever you are across this wide planet that tunes into all kinds of the shenanigans that are going on in here in Canada, aka What's Up, Canada. So, welcome back, Bryce. All kinds of things changing and critters swimming around the swamp. I know we're going to have a jam-packed discussion today about all kinds of things that are going sideways. If you guys are new out here, this is live. It's unscripted. It changes and evolves every week. And Bryce, if you don't know, is a financial advisor, a business advisor, self-employed. I'm not going to
Business
take
advisor, not a financial advisor.
business advisor. And in that environment, it's pretty critical to be on top of what's going on with the difference between conspiracy and theory, because people's finances are incredibly dependent on that. So that's why we get together every week to talk about the differences between some of the conspiracies and some of the theories, and some of that are both, and try and help sort out the noise and help people get into a position to make better choices. And pretty much no matter which direction you look in the financial universe these days, gold and silver is the best choice that you can make to protect yourself moving forward. So we are both massive advocates of that, hence why we get together and do this, so we can kind of progress that dialogue of people being aware of what's going on, sorting the noise, and being able to make more appropriate financial decisions. Did I miss anything there, Bryce?
Nope, just that I'm now as a precious metals broker as well, because I was doing business consulting before, but I've gone fully invested in gold and silver now because of the chaos around the world and in our country specifically.
And that's where we're here talking on behalf of New World Precious Metals. For it's right out there on the bottom of the screen, guys. If this is something you're considering, there is no commitment to go there. Click on the link, set up an appointment, talk to the guys. There's a team of you guys that kind of have some specialties that are uncommon in that industry. I know there's a lot of people talking about gold, silver, precious metals, and those kinds of things, but you guys actually help people at a deeper level with investments, portfolios. I don't want to give wrong information, so I'm not going to say they're going to save your RSPs, but whatever you've got, and if you're interested, Bryce and the gang can help you out over there. So if you're curious, go on over, click the link, set up an appointment. You'll talk to real guys, real people. It'll be Warren, Bryce, and Adrian, or the brain trust behind this. And that's kind of why we do this. It's not to help our show. This isn't to help What's Up Canada. This isn't to help Bryce personally. This is to put this into the public square for conversation, because there is an endless litany of shenanigans going on that make this the best alternative for people that can. And it's not limited to New World Precious Metals. At the end of the day, we want you to be able to survive the insanity that's coming. So that's kind of
Yeah.
why we get together and do this. So I hope you guys find some value in this. It's different every week. Give it a like, share, and a subscription, and we'll kind of dive into the swamp. There's lots to talk about this week.
There is a lot to talk about this week, and just to polish off on the gold and silver. Really, the thing that we want to do is help people protect their wealth from the craziness that's coming. Central bank digital currencies, economic collapse. The changing winds with the BRICS nations, and all of the difficulties that people are facing with inflation and affordability and all that sort of jazz. And so, if you're in a good position, you have your family already protected. You want to protect your wealth that you built up over a lifetime of working hard and trying to provide for your family. We want to help people do that to make sure that you can give that wealth to your family and keep it in the family. So yeah, feel free to reach out.
Well, and you mentioned a couple of things there, and I've been seeing some sensationalism, I guess, is kind of how I rank things in the news on a barometer of, how strong is the emotion behind behind it. And by that, I'm talking about the delivery. What are they trying to get us to notice? And I'm seeing a growing discussion around Swift and cryptocurrencies. And one of the things that I don't ever talk about, but I kind of know a little bit about, just enough to know that I should never talk about it, is I'm not a big buyer or believer in cryptocurrencies, but we're seeing a lot of discussion headed that way because, and this is where it does interest me, Swift is now in a position to service digital currencies, and we're seeing the central bankers buying up and trying to now legitimize digital currencies, and this kind of scares me heading into the slavery system that they're trying to implement. Is my radar going off for false reasons there on that, Bryce?
I kind of share the concern. I used to be a big proponent of cryptocurrencies when it started, like 10 years ago now, like 2012, I think they started. So, I mean, I recognized Bitcoin as like a very important technology if it could be utilized right from the beginning. I didn't get into it myself. I didn't have the money at the time, to be honest. Kind of happy I didn't, because I'd be in a much different situation right now, and I wouldn't be where I am today. And I like where I am today. So there's always that, right? But ultimately, the hello. Good to see you guys. And so to get back to the question, so the my position now, and I disagree with this on Warren with Warren, is that I think cryptocurrency is a red herring. It's a distraction from what you actually need, because cryptocurrencies require an internet connection and somebody else to have the capacity to trade that cryptocurrency between. And so the idea of a currency is that you can use it as an intermediary between other types of resources. And if you don't have that system set up, well, you can't participate with it, right? And so I think that the banks facilitating cryptocurrencies, BlackRock getting into a Bitcoin ETF, and ultimately central bank digital currencies, I think is the plan. And this is the intermediary step for it to get everybody used to using cryptocurrencies and digital currency and stuff. And then they're like, hey, we've got an official one, and everybody should sign up, and blah blah blah. And eventually it will be, you have to sign up and you have to have a digital ID, or you don't get to participate in society. And that's my true fear in this, is that it is essentially setting us up to, as training, to be like, hey, you've already used cryptocurrency and now you're using central bank digital currency. And that, I think, is my real fear.
And that's 100% on point. You know, when you see the destination that they're heading, it's more and more anxious every step that you see them taking us in that direction. And for me, now that the central banks around the world are starting to make the investment, make the transition, anything that they have to do with, to me, is pure evil. So that should be the biggest red flag that anybody should need, is to do not adopt anything that the central banks are adopting. That's kind of my just personal rule of thumb, and they seem hell bent on that, and we're seeing it. I think some of the more of the beta projects to test that starting to happen here in Canada, and one of them really hit the news big time this week. I don't know. I think good time to bring up the mural board, or should I bring up the clip that I've got for that?
Yeah, bring up the clip, and then I'll bring up the board after.
All right. So most of y'all would have probably, or may have probably heard about this already, but I'm going to bring it up here anyways, and we'll take a quick run with Mr. Sunshine Baby and hear how he sees this big news coming up. Okay. See if I make this work.
Saying today, Canada now has a town that forces you to scan a QR code to enter and leave, and then charges you $30 in tax. Step. I'd love to see the full video of this classroom.
Oh, I think it's switched to another.
Getting about 50,000 views as of making this video. Trudeau has 3 weeks left to call an emergency carbon tax meeting with provincial premiers as ordered by Parliament. Welcome to the big league. Very weird, but I like the way you guys say down below. Who you voting for? Who you voting for? Trudeau Canada now has a
Oh.
There
tool
we
that
go.
forces you to scan a QR code to enter and leave, and then charges you $30 in tax. They told you that 15-minute cities were just for convenience. You'll be allowed to leave, take off your tinfoil hat. This is crazy. It's the first time I'm hearing about this. Apparently, this is true. Ile de la Madeleine in the Gulf of the St. Lawrence has become the first municipality in Canada to officially require a QR code to leave and enter. What? Officials say that the requirement of a QR code to enter or leave will only be for tourists, while residents will be required to show their driver's license to leave and enter. The decision to require a QR code and identification for the municipality's 12,000 plus residents came after municipal government announced they would begin charging all visitors who come to this municipality $30, something which hasn't gone down well with the locals or their family members who visit them. That's pretty wild. Imagine driving up to see your family and you're being charged.
So yeah, that's we'll take it from there. If you don't see that in your provincial local park by the end of this year, if we don't put a stop to this, I'll eat my socks. That's kind of how I see this coming as the test pilot, only for tourism, and the foundation for the justification: preserve the environment. You must QR code in and out. That's kind of it in a nutshell. Am I wrong?
No, this is the ultimate goal of the digital ID and the bioconvergence and central bank digital currencies is, and I've said this before and I'll probably say it dozens of times more in the future, is that the ultimate goal of all of these systems that are being implemented is the ability to control what you can and cannot do. And more importantly than that, have the ability to change what you can do and not do with a point and a click of a button, whoever is in control of that system, right? So if you bring up my my screen here, so this digital ID that he's essentially showing in this, I got this off of the World Economic Forum website. Sorry, my cat's going to join us. And so what this essentially creates is this interface between you and everything, right? And what that will allow them to do, like I was mentioning, is remove your ass from society and from the system of your ability to get resources with the push of a button. This is the ultimate system of slavery that the Nazis and all of the people of the past and all of the tyrants in history would be just drooling over, right? Because the ultimate power of this is that once this is implemented, the people born into the system will never know what freedom is. They'll be literally born into a system where you are a slave forever, right? And that is the true goal of all of these sort of technologies, is the utter enslavement or removal of dissidents that disagree with it for humanity forever.
When I first saw this story, and my head exploded and the pieces starting to come back, they came back in different questions. One was like, okay, are the park rangers now going to be switching to fancy gray and black uniforms with lightning rods on them? Because that's kind of what's up with this, and that kind of explains, the liberals are lazy. They don't want to have to do any of this themselves. So the 1.4 billion for AI to manage these things that Trudeau intends on spending with the new budget. These are the things that come to my brain when I'm seeing this, and seeing how they're leveraging both sides of the path and narrowing us down, funneling us into exactly that completely complete control environment. And I do mean literally completely control, right down to our emotions as a being. That's they're going to control that and punish us for anything that we might think about thinking.
Yeah, and to take it a step further, to make this real world, this system is already being implemented in China, and so that AI that he's talking about. So I want everybody to do this when you leave over the weekend, and just for one of the days, Saturday or Sunday, whenever you're out somewhere going places and doing stuff, just take note of how many cameras on the road look at you and how many you see. Because what I notice here in Vancouver is that almost every intersection now has a camera on it that points in both directions. So they have invested huge amounts of money putting surveillance equipment all over the place. What are these doing? Who are they for? What's the goal? How much money did it cost us? Why are they doing it? All these obvious questions come up, but the answer is obviously I want control over the population. I want to be able to do things. And so what that AI will eventually allow them to do is they will see anything. And because it's AI, they'll be like, oh, you were 2 feet past that line. Boom, you get a ticket, and boom, we take it out of your account instantly. Because once you have that digital ID connected to who you are, then you have a facial ID connected to that, then you have your bank account connected to that, then you have health information. It'll all be connected. And so once you have that interface that they need, which is the digital IDs, they can just take money from you and you don't have any recourse, right? So they'll essentially be able to thieve and steal all of your assets from you if you step over the arbitrary line. So let's say they're like, oh, I think there's 2 genders. Boom, hate speech, arrested, in jail forever. And we take all of your assets like that.
I was watching a video the other day about this thing going on in China, and this thing is developing, right? They're developing this tech, so it's to the point now where if you aren't putting the correct smile on your face, the door doesn't open.
Yeah.
And they walk up to the door with no smile, and the door won't open. They turn to the camera, put the smile on their face, and the robots let them in.
It's dystopian.
So 1984, it's unbelievable. And I think maybe one of the reasons why this terrifies me so much is that is because I know that initial social credit system that they have been implementing in China. I'm not going to speak to the marriage of the tech, but the system was created, was the brainchild, the baby of the Montreal Research Institute here in Canada, and was initially presented to Stephen Harper in 2011, asking him if this was something he was interested in, and he went, no. So they parsed it off to China, and this is now where we get to see the bullet that we dodged for a couple of decades. So we owe Harper at least a thanks for that one, but I see it happening here, exactly that, incrementally, step by step. Every development of the tech as it marriages to the as it gets married up to the management and the traffic flow.
Yeah, and let me just take it a step further as well, and make it real for all of us. So you can see now on travel websites and in my bank. So I use Van City, and Van City, the credit union, now has an option that you can click on your Visa to be like, hey, I want to track my carbon credits. So the way that they're going to implement it for us, and I don't know if anybody else has talked about this, but I've been seeing this happen for a couple of years now, since like 2020 is really when they started to roll this garbage out. So hey, we have to save the planet, carbon credits for everybody. So your social credit score will be a carbon credit score. And I actually talked to the fool that created this system, and these people are insane. They really are. They are. They're like, hey, so it's because I asked them, like, where does all of this money come from this? Well, it comes from the government. So it comes from us because we pay for the government. That's our tax money. He's like, yeah. So we're just going to use this system, this cap and trade system, and we're just going to make a whole bunch of money off of it. So I'm like, you're going to take our money out of the system where it should be going to all of us so that we all benefit from it, and you're going to take it for yourself. He's like, well, yeah, I want to get some of my own money back by stealing our money from the government. I'm like, what? These people are insane, man.
Totally insane. There's a clip that's going viral about Trudeau at a whiteboard giving a lesson.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it is just he is such a joke. Even his own delusion, trying to look so like the teacher role, and he totally makes such an ignorant ass of himself, and is so wrong, just so wrong. It's just such an on par for the management team we call Ottawa. I'm going to do something I've never really done before, but happy birthday, John. I'm glad you're super happy, because this is your kind of party if you're into dark humor and laughing and mocking at the insanity around us. So happy birthday to you, John. So yeah, that's it's just one gaffe after another this week.
Yeah.
I myself find myself even so befuddled most times. I don't even know where to start next or what's next, because it's just constantly overlapping with each other, the levels of shenaniganry. You got something else pulled up there you wanted to touch on?
Yeah, I wanted to give everybody a bit of a laugh on this. So I'm in Vancouver, right? This is Vancouver behind me here, and so somebody drove past, and I saw this on Mr. Sunshine Baby, but somebody drove past a cop car that was all decked out in trans colors. How that has any relevance to policing? Why this is on government anything? These people are insane, right? But I just found it hilarious that people are just like, I've had enough of this, right? So this guy rolls over here, right? So this Vancouver RCMP officer, right? So this guy rolls up, and there's some guy in here dressing like a girl, and the guy asks, "So are you guys cops? You just identify as cops?" So I thought it was hilarious, and
I
so
I saw that clip too, and I couldn't help myself but cracking.
yeah, and I think this is where we really got to take this. That was we have to laugh at and deride these fools for being for doing this insanity, man. Like this has gone beyond comedy. I mean, well, actually, it's come full circle to comedy. It started out as comedy. It just got really dark and insane. Now it's come back to comedy again because everybody's such an idiot on the left, right? And I say that from the perspective of, if you tell me that the things that are in your head are reality, you're insane. If I identify as a billionaire, does that make me a billionaire? No, because that's not reality, right? Anybody that goes down that path, I just have no time for it, man. Because we all live in a collective hard reality that is based on physics and reality, for lack of a better term, right now. And like anybody that plays outside of that hard reality, like I just can't stand. So that's what we have to do to these
It's
people.
literally the Avatar universe. They live,
Yeah,
eat, sleep, breathe, value, and totally exist within that digital persona, that pseudo make it up, be whatever you want to be, video game mindsets, pseudo reality. It's such a living cross between the Matrix and Ready Player One.
yeah.
It's mind bending. And if you haven't seen those movies, I dare you to watch them, because they're actually supposed to be entertainment, but they're freaking nightmare projections, because they are exactly where we're at. And for folks, if anybody's curious about what Bryce is doing there with the screen moving hither, yonder, and there, I'm going to share a link in the chat here to this thing called Miro, where if you go there, you can see all of the notes from all of the shows that Bryce has accumulated. So every week when we get together and do one of these shows, he's adding the resources, the stuff, the links, so you guys can go and dig and dive into it yourselves at your convenience. So
Yeah,
this and
yeah,
I'll start helping soon too.
yeah. This is kind of a living history of all of the things that we're focusing on this show, right? So I'm trying to keep this fresh and relevant in the sense that there's so much happening, and not everybody has all of the time to dig into all this stuff. But I also want to give everybody the resource. Hey, this is what I saw. You can go look at it too. This is what I thought about it. You can think about whatever you want to think about as well. But I think the key here is that, like, I hate being lied to, right? I hate it when people lie to me, right? And I don't really care about people's opinion. I care about people's analysis, their conclusions, their actions that are relevant to that, and what's going to fix whatever the problem is that we're talking about. That's what I ultimately care about, right? And the best way to facilitate that sort of conversation is for me to show you what I'm seeing and what I think about it and why. Right. So that's my analysis. Right. And so I want to share my analysis with you and say, hey, this is something that I think is really important, that has a bearing and a relevance to you. And this is why I'm putting it in here. Right. So I'm collecting stuff as I go throughout the week, putting it in here. So if you want to dive deeper into some of this stuff, you can.
uh and yeah, like I said, I'm going to start sending you stuff to add to this board, but this is a way for people to use this as a force multiplier. You don't have to necessarily remember everything that we talked about and
Yeah.
try and recite it to people. Bookmark that site, and you guys can go and dig it up every week or whenever you need. Uh, I see this comment here. I want to pull this up. It's completely off topic on what we're talking about here, but
I was going to say
this
that too.
I'd heard about this story. They want to be the cake and to eat the cake too. They want to be male and female, and they want you to pay for it because that should be your priority to make sure that what he wants he gets, regardless of every community in the country having a brand new Trudeau Tentville, and lining up at food banks and all of those things. That should be your responsibility. So that's kind of how I really feel about that. Jessica, I hope you kind of feel the same way. It's just more of this lunacy than they want us to pay for, live, admire, and acknowledge their insanity when we should be. This kind of just snapped to me. If anybody wants the poster example of how far normalizing this insanity is going, and when it's crossed the line, look up a Piers Morgan clip where he interviews a liberal named Crackhead.
Oh yeah, I just saw that the other night, and it is hilarious, bro. These people are insane. There's literally no other word that I can think of that describes these people better, because they're like the tenuous grasp on reality that they had previously has been completely severed. They're out in space. It might as well be saying the Earth is flat, which it's not.
This person is supposed to be taken as normal when only a couple of years ago we would have as a community gathered some help and taken her to some help or
Yeah.
done something for her. And I was having a really deep discussion about this exact video yesterday because
Mhm.
what I watched it a couple of times and I did like everybody else. This is the prime time of crazy, insane left liberalism performing the biggest temper tantrum you've ever seen in your life. And we are sitting there watching this happen on primetime TV with one of the biggest names and faces on primetime TV in the world, in Piers Morgan, instead of all running out there and saying, how dare you put somebody that mentally ill in such a shameful, disgusting, demoralizing position. I would go and hide my face in shame for all eternity if I was Piers Morgan trying to pretend to have a normal conversation with somebody that should be in 24/7 medical care.
Yeah.
But that's normal.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, is that the clowns are running the show now. They're running the circus, and the mental patients are running the psych ward, and like we're on a decline, right? That, like, in the fall of the Roman Empire, this is basically the point where everybody's starting to notice, like, hey, things are going in the wrong direction, bro. And for us to like, take the train that has fallen off the tracks, get it back on the rails, and go in the opposite direction. That is a Herculean effort that we all got to be a part of. And this is why I keep saying this, is that, we as a community, the people that oppose all of this insane nonsense, you have to be a part of the solution, right? Because just staying silent, silence is compliance, right? Like, things are never going to be fixed if you and I and we collectively don't take the required actions to fix them, because the people that are in charge are now the people that are actively destroying us, right? So it's really up to us, right? And this is another reason that I like Miro, is because this is a collaborative work environment. Like, I'm sharing this stuff with you, so you guys get as mad as I am about some of this stuff, but then ultimately be like, hey, what are we going to do about it? That's the ultimate question you have to ask. What am I going to do about this, and how do we get it done?
And we're not telling you to come together with us on our specific little mural board and
Yeah,
fix
exactly.
it and get it done. No. It's just you get familiar with the tool, get to some of the like-minded community, and get your own mural board. I think they're free, and
Yeah.
get her done.
Yeah. And kind of in that vein of what we're up against, I really wanted to show two clips. I'll save the this idiot's nonsense for later, but I really wanted to go and talk about this. So the capital gains tax that was put forth in this budget, I want to explain for a second how devastating this is going to be and why. Okay. So first of all, but putting aside for a minute that the government has the audacity to think that it should take more than half of everything that you earn in any capacity whatsoever, let's just put that absurdity aside for a second and say, okay, if you're going to say this, what are the consequences of this? Now, the government is lying through its teeth, first of all, about what the implications of this are, right? And so I've talked to a bunch of different people, right, about this that are in the business community that have assets that this is going to affect. And here's a couple of the main criticisms and reasoning that this is such an absurd nonsense thing. And even one of the NDP guys, Tom Mulcair, that I think was in this clip, he even said that we tried this years ago, or maybe it wasn't Mulcair or some other guy, but we said we did this years ago, it didn't work because everybody just didn't spend any money or they moved their assets abroad, right? Now, because you can move your assets abroad, why would I keep my money in Canada? Why would I do these transactions? And right now, because this takes effect in a couple months, now there's going to be a mad dash to make transactions now. So to sell things, which is going to put downward pressure on assets so that everybody sells now so they don't get dinged by the government. Okay. And so what this ultimately does, and this is already happening, is investment from around the world is pulling out because they're not going to make any money. Why would I go and invest in a place that is going to take the vast majority, 2/3 of the effort that I'm putting in? I take all of the risk. I take all of the brain damage. I do all of the effort, and you take 2/3 of it. You got to be freaking insane. And only a moronic communist would suggest something this stupid.
And it's literally going up to 2/3. Is it not 66%?
66 point, yeah,
And
66.7%.
they're lowering the threshold on the on the what qualifies for that level of taxes too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's something to that effect. And Christia Freeland is just such a smarmy fool. But she goes up there and she's like, "Oh, it's not going to affect this. It's not going to affect that." But you got to understand too is that inflation is pushing up the levels of the amount of money that people make, right? So if I get paid more money, I'm in a higher tax bracket. But if inflation is killing my my buying power, I'm buying less, not more stuff with the more money that I'm making now, and that puts me in a higher tax bracket. Right. And all of these things together have made Canada not only a laughingstock, but also a detrimental investment environment. If you don't have people investing in a country to build stuff and do stuff and go places and spend and do whatever, that's called the velocity of money, the economy crashes. Like that is literally what he is pushing us into, as if we weren't in one already. He's pushing us further into a recessionary environment that people are going to sell assets, get their stuff out, and hold on to their money because it's not a beneficial environment to invest. Like the level of insanity that this is, like, I can't even overstate. Because and this is another reason why the gold and silver is a good way to avoid all of this sort of stuff, because there's tax. I don't want to say tax exemptions or avoidance, but there's tax efficiencies that you can do with it.
This is literally a suicide pill for
Yeah, it is.
economic business development and sustainability. It
It
is
is.
literally a bullet in the back of the head suicide.
Yeah, and this is why I get so amped about this stuff, is that we don't have to be doing this. This comes down to two things, which is ideology and the incompetence of our government. There's nothing else that does this, because this is an intentional. Because we've tried to, like, this has been done in other places, but it's not like we have this amazing new idea. We're just going to change the world with this new thing that we're putting in. This has been done before, and it hasn't worked before. It's been done in Canada before.
I mean, it didn't work for Mao, didn't work for Pol Pot. It's just beyond incompetence. That's the thing that gets me, is people still want to give them anybody there the benefit of the doubt that it's just bad because they're just not very good at it. You can't be this bad without being really good at being bad.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so to move this conversation along a little bit, and to flesh out this idea a little bit more, I want to show you how absolutely absurd and corrupt our state-run media is. Okay, I don't listen to these idiots for this reason, because how transparently stupid they are. Right. So the guy on the right. So I'm just going to preface this a little bit. So the guy on the right is from this Council of Canadian Innovators. These guys are all high growth tech companies that are basically an association to help push Canadian business worldwide. Okay, so
NGO.
I think they're membership run. They're not an NGO. Well, I don't know if they technically qualify as an NGO, but they're membership run. So it's the businesses themselves. I actually got a full list of them, and so they're actual businesses, right? So these are actual CEOs and people of these businesses that are members of this organization. Yeah, more. But these guys are actually pushing back against this. So fair play to CBC or whatever. CBC. They had somebody on to push back on this. But this woman on the left here, they're from Canadians for Tax Fairness, and I want you to listen how absolutely absurd her argument is.
Cannot turn your volume.
A long time coming, this tax increase, and we've been undertaxed, is her argument.
We're not hearing anything, or I'm not hearing.
Oh, you can't hear it?
No, not sure what's going on.
Okay, one sec. Probably did this wrong. I'll just share this again. I thought you could hear it. Okay, that's on. Oh, okay, I didn't turn it on. That's why. Sorry about that. Can you hear it now?
In terms of how that levels out to taxes that are applied to
on what you make of this increase.
Well, frankly, I think this increase is a long time coming. We have been for decades undertaxing income from investments in capital.
Only a communist would say that.
In terms of how that levels out to taxes that are applied to waged earnings. And frankly, all this does is take the income investments of the richest Canadians, those who are making on average,
which is a lie. It does not just tax the richest Canadians. That's a straight out lie.
$1.4 million in income annually, and tax them a little bit more to bring them a little bit more in line with what your average waged earner, your plumber, your electrician, your teacher has to pay.
So that's a straight lie. Okay. Now, my first question was, who would advocate for higher taxes on themselves? Like, this person doesn't look poor, so she must be of the wealthy class. So, like, who would say we need more taxes with these people, right? So I actually looked into these guys, right? And this is the Canadians for Tax Fairness, right? So if you go to the website, so this is Canadians for Tax Fairness, authors, Katrina, whoever. Now, they have this big, long summary of what they care about and who they're on, blah, 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 blah. So I did a Control F for carbon, right? 84 times these people were like, hey, we got to carbon tax this and carbon that and saving the climate and blah, 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 blah. The whole thing that these guys are about is about increasing taxes to pay for carbon and to pay for to give more money to the government so that they can fund the solutions to climate change. So to summarize this entire thing that I'm bringing up here, the CBC brought up this group of people to come up and tell us that it's good for us to get taxed more and have our money be taken from us to give to the government so that they can give it to other organizations or other projects to fix the climate. The absolute absurdity of this reasoning and logic and the transparent corruption that this is, because they actually share, and I actually did a comparison. So all of the talking points that Trudeau and all these other idiots are using to fix the climate, they are using as well. So they had the same playbook. They're like, hey, we need somebody to come here and tell the people it's good to be taxed more, when they take 2/3 of the money that come from somebody's transaction. Because the thing that this actually affects is people that have had a business for decades and now they're at the end of their life, which baby boomers are, and now they got to sell that asset, and that's their retirement. They've been building up their business, be like, hey, I'm selling it off to somebody else, now I'm going to go retire. That's who they're trying to come after now, is the people that are sitting on their nest egg. Now they're like, hey, that nest egg that you thought you got, nah, we need that money to pay for the $650 billion that we printed that you got nothing from. This is the type of stuff that we're dealing with.
This is the propaganda that is that goes with the ESG
exactly.
Programming, and I just stumbled into something yesterday, and I'm going to be doing a special Blockbuster show tomorrow night, guys. You might want to tune in for that one, because I'm going to talk about this one here, but I'm going to drop just a little bit of a seed of that right now. It's just come out. drum roll, that the entire foundation of the data set to justify the DEI, or pardon me, ESG DEI incorporation into international commerce and finance, the source of the information comes from a company called McKinsey.
which is the consulting arm of the oligarchy.
With the consulting arm of the group that looked after the we and the Arrive scam and 2/3 of all government contracts, and it all boils down to insider trading.
And
The
corruption, because
whole-
it's transparent corruption.
they're the bankers, they're doing the books behind the banks, telling their cronies what to do, what to buy, what to invest, because this is the policy that they're implementing, and these are the companies and the groups and organizations like this one that are doing the legitimization of what they're implementing.
Yeah. Exactly, and in that vein, so in the same vein, so we just talked about McKinsey and Company, and just to speak about them for a second, so they also consulted for the Chinese Communist Party in China. They like got right in with the highest echelon of the Chinese Communist Party. You cannot do that at all unless you have some level of trust and collaboration already established, right? So you have this massive, I mean massive, multinational consulting corporation that comes into governments and Fortune 500s and the Chinese Communist Party and all sorts of authoritarians all over the world, and says, "Hey, let's work together. You pay us a bunch of your country's money, and I'll give you some answers that you need." And they literally come in and say, "What do you need? We'll figure out something for it." Boom, there you go. Right. So that's the type of stuff that they do. Right. The transparent corruption that company engages in is atrocious, and that's a rabbit hole that I suggest somebody goes down. But it's kind of a waste of time. All you need to know is they're assholes. This is basically what it boils down to. And so why I'm bringing this up now is that, because we're talking about transparent corruption. GC Strategies and Arrive Scam are the best example and the most transparent example in recent memory of the government participating in and facilitating corruption with a third party, right? GC Strategies got in government contracts from nothing in 2015. They're like, boom, here's $250 million of contracts over the next 10 years. They're like, hey, what do you guys do? Nothing, but we'll figure out other people that can do stuff for you. And we'll just take 20%. Like, it's an absolute absurdity. Okay.
Two guys in the basement collecting $250 million.
Exactly.
And now, and this was kind of one of the things that triggered me, McKinsey had a spokesperson pulled into that investigation and threw Mr. GC Strategies under the bus. Who could have predicted that?
Yeah. I want all of these corporations and all of these corporate lobbyists, all of these idiots need to be purged from the government. And and this is why I'm bringing this up. So this, I can't remember this chick's name, Susie something or other. I can't remember her name. She's one of the conservative MPs that was looking into this. But what the investigation into GC Strategies, because his house got raided. I've been watching intently the whole GC Strategies debacle happen in real time as much as I can. And one of the things that happened is he got his door kicked in. And one of the things that came out of that is that there was a contract that was directly related to Chrystia Freeland's office. So it was one of her handlers or whatever. But this is like essentially a smoking gun that the government not only knew that this was a waste of money, but they probably, and I can't say definitively yet, but almost guaranteed that they were benefiting from and profiting from that money going to GC Strategies. So on the one hand, you've got the government says, hey, we need to do a thing. Okay, find somebody to do it. Okay, we got these guys over here. And they go and say, hey, I've got people to do this. Give me a contract for it. And they go back to the people that told them to go do something and say, hey, you give me X amount of money, I'll go do the thing. And that organization, GC Strategies, gives a kickback to somebody in the government, right? Now, this happens throughout all governments everywhere. People want to profit from it. There's another example with the Green Slush Fund with the idiot that was running the show. Her company's got a whole bunch of stuff that she directly benefited from and didn't even think that was a conflict of interest. Like, these people they're insane, right? They're lying to our face, and they're engaged in corruption, right? And one of the things that I talk a lot about now, because I'm pissed about this, is who is supposed to investigate this? who is supposed to be responsible for making sure this doesn't happen? And if something does happen, who is going to take care of it? What are the punishments going to be? Where's our money gone? Do we get it back? Like, none of these questions are being answered, right? So like, I really get annoyed by the conservatives when you have infinite amount of ammo to be like, you guys are doing this, you guys are doing that. And what do they talk about? Axe the tax. I agree, but bro, let's talk about the real things happening, please, man.
100% agree. 100% agree. I've got a couple of those triggers as well about the waste of the time and chasing red herrings. And the entire government is all about chasing red herrings while we're bleeding out. Yeah, and unfortunately, so is most of the population. It baffles me how many people still want to deny why we're in the situation that we're in. Right from the get go. And people are dying for the lie. People are dying and sacrificing themselves to this day to uphold the lie, and the lie just keeps getting bigger. When regardless of how hard we fight, it seems the lie just keeps getting bigger. And for me, the big one about that is, I'll put out into a chat group or something somewhere, we need to pull an Iceland. Everybody will go, yeah, we need to do an Iceland. We need to do an Iceland, dude. And then the next sentence are going, we have to save our sovereignty. They don't get it. They just flat out don't get it. You cannot save what you didn't have. We are not a sovereign nation. We need to become a sovereign nation. That's what Iceland did. That's how they jailed their bankers. That's how they got rid of all of the debt made by the criminals, because the debt goes with the criminals. So when I say we need to do an Iceland, we need to jail the bankers and actually become a sovereign nation controlled by the people. But we are just so running around like chickens with our heads cut off, while these guys are sitting there. And you know what? For $250 million, I'll sit there and let 338 clowns chirp away at me too, as long as you want. Go hard, retard.
Yeah, 100%. And Michelle just made a really good point. Why do you think they started making people report the sale of principal residences that will be considered taxable before much longer? And in that vein, they're requiring, so that idiot Gilbo, that's the most transparent communist moron in the cabinet, besides Trudeau and Freeland herself, is he tried to do the same thing with the plastic registry, like all plastic. Like, how dumb could you be? Like, how much effort and time and regulation and waste of time would that take to manage something like that? These people have no concept of reality, right? And sorry, just let me finish this point so I don't forget it. And what Michelle is bringing up, they're trying to do the same thing for all food, right? They went to the farmers and they said the same thing. Give us a list and a database of all of the animals and all your crops and all of they want to know everything so they can manage and tax everything, and then eventually take everything. Because what will eventually happen is, if you have, like, let's say you have 200 acres or something, and they're like, hey, you got to pay taxes on that. I'd be like, oh, I don't have any money for that. Well, you better sell some of it. And they're just going to force sell assets until they have everything and we have nothing. And that's why they're making it so expensive.
Your property got 20 gallons of rain last month, and 18 of it only made it back into the gutters. So now we're going to have to charge you for the 2 gallons that did. Yeah, it is. That's literally, you cut a blade of grass we weren't aware of.
Yeah.
Shame on you, and no lunch for you. Yeah. And now I forgot the point I was going to make. I was going to mock them. I'm sure it's to some level or another, guaranteed. But
I'll bring up David Carson's comment too. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, 100% true. And these guys only exist to do that, to extract every little micro molecule of wealth and resource that we have. But this was the point I was going to make. How dumb are we? We are dumb enough to put a guy who's most famous for being a criminal and wearing an orange jumpsuit and costing $100,000 for acts of terrorism and literally terrorizing premiers of Alberta. But this guy in his former jumpsuit can be the one to tell the rest of Canada how to live. And we think they're crazy. No, we're freaking crazy. The instant that guy got nominated for a position, we should have gone into open revolt.
Yeah. And there's a really old saying that you get the government you deserve, right? Because and you what's the other part of that? You get the government you deserve, and you get the something that you allow. I can't remember the other part of it, but basically we have allowed this, right? And this is why I get so amped about this. I've had enough, bro. Like I don't want this anymore, and this is it's gone too far. It's gone way too far. And the key to fixing this is we have to take an active participation in our civic duties, and that's something that I notice no politician anywhere ever talks about. What is your responsibility? They're like, no, don't worry about it. You just put me in power, bro, and I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it, bro. No, it's all good, bro. No, just give me the power instead of being. Yeah, go ahead.
In this whole point of I don't care what it is, it's just not Trudeau. This Russian roulette. Let them get in office and give them a chance to see what they'll do. That is, again, such backward thinking.
Yeah.
Why are we not vetting these people to the utmost capacity and within our human skill and abilities, and making sure before they get that power? No, we just keep playing this Russian roulette and losing in this. So this is why the political system, I just don't see a remedy in that, because it's all just a charade. And that's not to say we can't lean on these people. We need to have some form of a system, but what we have is so damaged and broken. We need to pull an Iceland in order to fix it, so that there is some merit and value to the system that governs us.
Yeah, take a Javier Milei and take a chainsaw to everybody. So Argentina was in a deficit for 16 years. He finally got the government to make a profit and have a positive surplus for the first time in 16 years. I think it was like 3 or 4 or something.
It took months.
Yeah,
only took months. And that comes back to
fired
this,
like 30,000 people or something. We got to do the same thing.
Alberta, the province of Alberta, the single largest employer is the government. How many other provinces are exactly the same? If that isn't a problem, when they are destroying the ability for people to generate, we don't have any production. We're not generating profit or revenue or manufacturing enough to sustain ourselves and this bureaucracy that can only live by being a parasite. That's the nature of it. They don't produce anything, so they live off of us. We have more parasites than we have people now. And the only way to escape that, because the parasites outnumber the people, is to pull an Iceland. I'm going to talk about Iceland an awful lot in the next few months. Because if we're going to go into an election, we need to get a whole lot smarter about what we're talking about going into the election.
Oh yeah. Oh, believe me, I will be. I'm super pissed about this because I'm tired of listening to idiots tell me nonsense, lie to me, and then say, "Don't worry, bro, I've got it covered." When they're talking nonsense, be like, "Hey, just vote for me, bro. It's all good." No, enough of this shit, bro. We need an upgrade to our democracy. Democracy is supposed to be one voice, one vote for one citizen. No illegal immigrants are going to vote in this election. We have to have the platform and the what's the word? The stretch goals. So I don't want to hear, don't worry about it. Like, oh, we're just going to fix everything. No, what are the actual things that you're going to do? What are the results that you're going to get? And what are we going to measure your ass by? Because that's how the real world works. If you get a job and you get hired to do a job, somebody is in charge of making sure you do that job. And if you don't do that job, you get fired, right? And if the government isn't going to do the job that it said it was going to do, it gets fired. I'm so sick of and tired of having these people have no accountability whatsoever, right? You have to have accountability, or people don't have, or they don't care. Like, so, hey, wait 4 years and you can vote us out. That is horseshit, bro.
I think actually I would bank and bet on it that um, there's going to be a whole lot of people that are going to be really, really blindsided by the different discussions that are going to come in advance of this coming election. And this one coming election is going to be different. And some of the things that I see lining up that are going to make it different is, although it may seem the same, it's not going to be the ugly head, as some people would call it, of separation in Quebec is rising again and becoming even more radical than the separation movement before it. And this is going to open up that door of conversation again in the coming election cycle. But that's going to make it different this time is, or in the time since between the last one and now, Canadians, a lot more Canadians have come to understand what the term de facto is and the implications on it. We literally see Danielle Smith pulling card out of after card after card out of the playbook. She said, well, it worked for Quebec. It worked for Quebec. It worked for Quebec. She doesn't exactly say what worked for Quebec, but what she's doing is she is implementing policy within the rights of that territory, region, and because she understands the gray area more and more so of why Quebec gets away with everything, because they know and they hold Trudeau's feet to the fire for whatever they want because they know that it's a de facto country. And Danielle is starting to pull cards out of this, which tells me that more and more people are understanding the actual true jurisdiction of this landmass we call Canada. But this time, when Quebec rears that head again, the rest of the country is not going to be going, oh no, we need to save Quebec this time. The rest of the country is going to be going, really? Okay, now we can get ours too.
Yeah. And I think what that will ultimately culminate in to some degree is a renegotiation of what confederation really means. I consider myself a Canadian and I was born in BC, but I do not agree with either of the governments that represent me. David Eby is a moron. Is absolutely mathematically and economically illiterate. He's an ideologue. He's more or less a communist because of the policies that he's pushing. He's trying to destroy the healthcare system, even if it's not intentionally. He's achieving it either way. And John Rustad and the BC Conservatives are absolutely obliterating him right now, and the Liberals that came before them, because anything connected to Liberal now is basically garbage. It's going to be a dead party more or less, because Justin Trudeau has done so much damage to it. And like, I used to consider myself a Liberal because I consider myself a centrist, even though I'm technically a conservative now. But it's because I don't give a shit about what the ideology is. I care about what is the actions and the policies and the implications of their implementation on our society. I look at this from a non-personal perspective. What is good for us and our country, not just my personal self and my personal family, right? And so from that perspective, I voted for almost all of the parties in my life, because I'm like, well, I don't like this policy, but I don't like this person, and like, I'm looking at policy, right? And so what this is really boils down to is a massive opportunity. You need to, like, and this is to everybody now, everybody needs to get into their physical riding and their physical constituency and talk to the people that are supposed to represent you and be like, hey, asshole, why are you not talking about this? Why are you supporting this policy? What about this? What about this? What are you going to do about this? If you want to stand up there and be representing me, well, you better ask me what I think. Right. And this is the thing that I hate the most about our system, even though it's better than lots of other countries around the world. So we'll give credit where credit's due, is that there's no connection to the people and the representative other than vote for me. That is a ridiculous situation, especially we're sitting in like basically a Zoom call right now, where I can send you stuff. I'm showing you my screen. I can throw a vote up. Like, we have the technology to create a system where the connection between our representatives and those who they represent is much deeper and much wider than it already is. But not a single politician will ever push forward the idea that I have to be responsible to people, and I just can't do what I want to do, because I've been in a situation in the past where I was a representative of other people and they would tell me some stuff and I'd be like, but this is what I want to do, so this is what I'm going to do, because there was no accountability, there was There was no way for them to force me to do that. And even if I didn't do what they wanted, they couldn't do anything about it, right? So we have to have that as a mechanism in a democracy that let's just give you an idea, right? So let's say that 75% of a constituency says, if you vote this thing, this is a non-confidence vote for you, and you are going to face us after this. I guarantee you, if that was part of our system, every single one of those representatives would be in their community being like, no, we got to do this. You got to sell me on your idea. If you're going to make that choice and you say, hey, we got to do this, you better be selling me on that idea, not just doing it because somebody paid you to, or because you have this insane ideology that says, no, let's just screw Canada over because I get money out of it or some other nonsense.
That's literally what they're doing in Nova Scotia. They're fielding an entire field of independent candidates that are all signing personal contract agreements that if you don't agree to what you're stepping up to represent, then we will hold you personally accountable. And they're literally going to flood and wash away the controlling parties in that province. But I do want to bring up one last comment here. We're getting over time here, but Sherry's comment here: Armstrong Economics thinks Quebec and Alberta will eventually separate, and I need to clarify that because they won't be separating. What they'll be doing is taking ownership of their territory, because they were separated. We were all separated in 1931. The difference is we have all just been towed along in the direction that the rest of everything was going for the last 80 years. And this is the difference between Quebec and some of the other provinces. Is Quebec has, they're not just floating along. They've been building a motor. They've been building, making their ship capable of moving on its own. And when any single one of the provinces' territories could do this right now, when they decide to ultimately claim the ownership of the land that they stand upon and hold constitutional conventions, the interesting thing happens is every treaty, every policy, every agreement that was ever signed under the coalition of Canada is going to have to be renegotiated. So they're not going to be separating. They're actually going to be claiming ownership of their territory and land. And that is the point. That is the discussion that we're going to have as a country. Do we want 10 independent countries, or do we like being Canadian?
Yeah. And that's a discussion that everybody, I think, is going to have to consider. So I like I like the idea of Canada, right? Like, what does BC mean really? Like we're not represented by ideas in the sense of our national identity, because it's been so destroyed by all of the policies and the idiotic ideology that's been implemented in our name for us against our will. Right? Almost nobody supports the idea that the government can just inject you at will with whatever the hell it wants. But you have these lunatics on the left that are like, no, that's totally reasonable. We should totally do that. And everybody should do what they're told, or they should be go to jail. There's people that wanted people to die. They wanted the unvaccinated to die. The absolute absurdity of these people, man. And like, I'm unvaccinated. I'm never going to be vaccinated. Screw that. Like, I am the only person that decides what goes into my body, right? But I have never once hoped that somebody died from the vaccine. Like, what an evil thing to say. Like, my entire family is vaccinated. I don't want a single person to be hurt by this thing, but they are. And like, the fact that we can't even say that these things are happening, or you get labeled hate speech, all this other nonsense, is just an absolute absurdity. We're supposed to live in a country and in a society that we care about facts, we care about reality, and we care about life of other people. And you have these insane people on the left that are like, no, we don't care about none of that. It's all about power. We got to do it with what they're told, or else. Like, these people are just insane.
We've got convicts and maps running our country.
Yeah.
What should we expect? Right? I mean, so until we pick it up and decide to own our shit at every level, it's not really going to change it. And I was just trying to help with that clarification, Sherry, because this whether we like it or not, this is the thing that's going to happen. The point I wanted to make is that whether we like it or not, it only takes one province or one territory to decide to hold constitutional conventions, and Canada as you know it, and government as we know it, it's all gone. The other provinces,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what they want at that point. They're going to be forced to address things like currency, military, treaties, borders, all of those things that the Liberal Party now manages would then be, up to those individuals to decide how they wanted to do it and what their borders would look like after that. And that's the conversation that's going to be forced is, do you want to, what do we want to do moving forward? So
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
what separation does. That's definitely a stick in the bicycle wheel of the globalist agenda, but time will tell. And I think this is why it's so critically important for us to get involved, start having discussions, and get on that mural board, guys. Start using some of that information. If you've got good stuff, send it to us. You can always email it to contact@whatsupcanada.org if nothing else, or reach out to us. But I'm sure we'll find some crazy stuff to talk about between now and next week. Again, anything? Your last words heading out of here, Bryce?
Yeah, could you just bring up my screen for 1 second? I just want to show this to everybody. So there's a conference that's happening in Victoria on June 21st to 23rd. So they have a bunch of speakers. So Dr. McCullough, Dr. Bhattacharya, who've been very anti-jabs and for obvious reasons. Clyde from Clyde Do Something, really good guy. John Carpe is kind of fighting for our constitutional rights. It's the JCCF. I don't remember what it stands for. Yeah. Really good guy. Really believes what he says and does what he believes, and so I'll be here as well. We're going to be at the event, so if anybody wants to come up and chat and talk to me, I'll be there. Feel free. Awesome.
And if you want more information on that, guys, folks, pull up the mural link. You'll find it there. You'll be able to get everything that Bryce brought up and talked about tonight. And get plugged in, stay strong, and we'll see you next week. I'll pull that out of there. I did want to invite everybody to come and tune in tomorrow. If I can find it here. We're going to be doing a really big show on some special announcements, some massive stories that I almost missed. So I don't usually do Saturday show, guys, but this is one to tune in for. So I just wanted to plug that real quickly at the end of the night here. So stay strong, and we will see you all next week. And I'm going to get to play your awesome new commercial on the road here again, Bryce. So
awesome.
Find us. We'll chat soon.
Thanks.
In times of global instability, soaring inflation and massive debt, gold and silver have proven to be unshakable pillars of wealth. New World Precious Metals, based in Calgary, Canada, is a leading international brokerage. We offer an easy, secure and cost-effective platform for investing in gold and silver, including our international wholesale program and registered retirement savings accounts. Protect your money outside traditional banking with our physical precious metals, privately vaulted outside the banking system, at secure, insured exchanges worldwide. Gold and silver have been trusted assets for generations, with current projections indicating high returns. And with unprecedented demand from governments, banks, and investors, there are now shortages. Precious metals thrive during inflation, geopolitical instability, and currency devaluation. Sound familiar? Now is the time to invest in gold and silver, whether in your international investment account or by transferring registered retirement savings accounts. Experience the security of physical precious metals, combining the safety of physical assets with the flexibility of being like your own bank, offering instant liquidity and a financed line of credit. With precious metals on the rise, don't miss this generational opportunity to protect your wealth. At New World Precious Metals, we ensure your wealth meets its potential. Contact us today and our personal brokers will guide you every step of the way.